Hi, I'm Jerry Ford and welcome to my studio. And what are we going to do today? We're going to explore all the uses and things that deal with the Babylock serger machines that have the ability to do the wave stitch. It's a really interesting feature and nobody else does it but Babylocks, and you will just love this. In this first part, we're going to talk about how you're going to thread the machine for the wave and the basic uses of the stitch and some fun tips and tricks on how to use it. Okay, we're going to begin our journey about learning about all things wave stitch by doing the standard 3-thread wave stitch. You want to follow the cheat sheet. This is the best tool that we've got for threading our machines. The needle is the O2 needle, which is the rightmost needle here. Okay, I'll point to it. The length, it's recommending 0.75. This is my length, so I'm going to go to 0. And actually, I like 0.5, so I'm going to turn this so this is at 0.5. Or in other words, the first click past 0. My width is 5.0, so I'm going to pretty much make this the widest it's going to go. And yes, it's the dials here says 0.75 and 5.0. However, we're using the right needle, so the smaller number is going to be your actual width, and that's the width from the blade to the needle. Okay, stitch selector is going to be on B. Okay, the wave selector should be up at wave, so that's right here. The needle tension, don't worry about that. We don't have chain needle tension, nor do we have chain needle looper. The upper looper selector is up, and by that I mean they're talking about this. The blade is in the up position. If it doesn't say lock, it's in up. The knife cover is on, and the subsidiary looper, which is the thing that looks like a safety pin, is in the disengaged position. So for threading this, and it does not matter what order you thread it in, is that you're going to have the upper loop. This is the lower looper. And note that it goes up and as normal into its normal place. So I'm going to lock in my threading tubes whichever way. If you check your machine manual to find out what way you're supposed to lock those down. Okay, so I'm going to take, this is woolly nylon that I'm using, which is a light, fluffy, spreads out nicely type of thread. It doesn't like going through the loopers on most machines. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a thread cradle, which means I take about a yard of thread, put the two ends together, see if you can see that, two ends together, so it makes a big long loop. I'm doing the lower looper first, but it doesn't matter. Put the two cut ends about a ½ inch in, and okay, and it's come through over here. So you push the air pump, whether it's a pump or electronic, it's up to you. And here it comes out over this end. I'm going to take my woolly nylon thread, which is blue. I'm using blue woolly and white woolly. Put it in the loop. One loop into the other. Okay, and pull it. And then pull that thread cradle. And now my woolly nylon is actually in place, okay? Now I've already threaded the others, but I'll show you what I did, okay? So what I did is this is my, now what I've done with, notice here, I don't know if you can see that. My thread on this model, the evolves only. The newer models, you don't need to do this. But if you have an older evolve, what you need to do is put your lower looper thread here, run it through both of these thread guides, so it goes off and into the lower looper position. Okay, that only needs to be done with this machine. Okay, my upper looper, normally it comes straight up and it usually goes here. Well, guess what? We're moving it to the third slot from the right for the wave only. That's normally a needle position. Okay, then my right needle position, the right needle goes in here, and I've got regular thread in here. It normally goes here, but instead it's going to go over here, and then it goes up and around and into the needle, and I've already threaded that. So So notice your threaded guide, your thread cheat sheet is colored. Just follow the diagram, okay? And of course, I'm going to put my differential feed at neutral, and let's try it. Release my threading tubes, and let's try it out. And I'm at neutral. Okay. Let's see what this does. And I'm just going to do a double piece of fabric just so that it looks nice. I'm going to let it cut, lower my presser foot, and off we go. Let's see what this looks like. Okay, when you are doing the wave stitch, do not sew like your hair's on fire. There we go. All right, I want this even tinier. All right, it's working out beautifully. And here you have the perfect wave stitch. Now notice what it does is it takes the bottom looper thread and pulls it all the way to the top and across to the front here. So this looks really, if you've got a little bit of gaps, just give it a little press and it will be just fine. See, here's another little gap right there. So if you just, that's the one thing with woolly nylon, it spreads out rather nicely. Okay. So now, uses for this. This could be a hem. This could be a pocket top. It could be piping. There's all kinds of things you could do with this. But this is your basic wave stitch. And I use this a lot on my samples. Anytime I have to stitch, just finish the edge, it's a quick finish. You could also just use this as quilt binding. You know, instead of quilt binding, you just do this at the edge of your quilt. So those are the uses for this standard wave stitch. We're going to make our own piping out of just fabric, doing the 3-thread stitch. For this, we're going to use the O2 needle that's already there. Length is now, they're saying 1 to 2.5. I'm going to leave mine at 0.5 because I like a tight wave formation. The width doesn't change, that's still at 5. Stitch selector is still at B. It's still on overlock. These don't matter. Nothing else has changed from before. I recommend that you start your fabric first. Make sure it's rather stiff. Just fold it. Okay. And then I'm not going to cut the fold. I am lining up the fold with the blade. I don't actually want it to cut, so I know that's where it's got to go. And I'm just going to start stitching. If it cuts a little bit, that's okay. There, and this makes about 1/4 inch. You might want to use a couple of things to trim it. So this one is called, this is Simplicity's. It's called Piping Wizard. And it's got different sizes of piping. One side is just the narrow 1/16 inch, and this is the larger. So you could just then, you would put this on the big side, so it's the thicker one. And then just simply put this on your rotary cutter to trim it away to 1/4, so you have a 1/4 inch. I'm not going to do that today, but you would get the idea that it would look when it was done. Now you have perfect piping. Right here. Now you have perfect piping. You can order the Simplicity Piping Wizard. You can order that at the store at www.seweasysewing.com. If they don't have it in stock, they can order it for you. Okay, but say I still want this thinner than that. Okay, I have another piece. I'm going to bring that width in to it, the smallest it will go, and let's see what it does. I want the width really small. Again, I'm going to line up the fabric, the fold, with the blade. that works too. In fact, I like this better. This is the narrowest it would go. The only thing I changed here was the width. And look, that to me looks better for piping, especially if you trim it off to about 1/4 of an inch. There, now you've made a really interesting piping, and it could go into anything. Here's the other two things we've done so far. So here they are to compare the widest and the narrowest. Otherwise, they look great. If you're doing this narrower one, then you can use this narrow 1/16 inch for trimming. And this one is actually called the piping trimming tool. Here it is so you can see it. The piping trimming tool by Susan K. Cleveland. And you can order those online. If not, the store can order it for you. Okay, next we're going to create wave pin tucks using the 3-thread wave stitch. So again, checking out the guide. Nothing has changed, nothing has changed, nothing has changed. We're using the standard wave stitch like we did before. This is saying doing it on its widest, and we'll try that, and then we'll try one narrow. So first wide. So what you do is that you can mark your lines if you want them evenly spaced. You could just take a chalk, or your actually what helps is to use that Clover fabric pressing pen, and you can get that at the store as well. And that helps to give it a nice crease. You can use it also to fold, and it won't leave any marks. Or you can chalk it, or whatever you like to make your marks. I'm just going to wing it. Okay, so I am again not going to cut. I am going to just create the wave stitch. And I don't want to cut. I'm using the wide one now. Didn't mean to cut. Okay, and you would just give it a nice press, so that when you press this, and I will show you in a little bit what it looks like when it's pressed, then you have a pin tuck. Okay, then how I measure them is I want it to go about the width of the blade. I don't want to catch that. And I want that to be about the width of the blade. I'm just using the edge of the foot as my guide, and I'll do another row. Oops, almost. Okay, now I'm going to go back to the narrow, and I'll do the next two. I'll scoot it over a little bit. Now, if you were doing a blouse or something, and you wanted these to go folded in opposite directions, you would just start sewing it from the other side, and I'll do that with these. Okay, and do the narrow ones this way. And all I'm doing here is changing the width. Okay. Well, see, now they would face each other. Okay, and then the same thing. I'll fold this over and get one last in. Then I'll press it, and you'll see how lovely they look. This one I'm going to try not to cut. Okay. All right, that looks good. And let's push this out of the way. Okay, let's press these and see what they look like. Actually, I'm going to press them from the back. It's easy. It's actually easier if you press them from the back. And that way you do not crush your thread. Okay, so I want these this way, so I'm going to press them from the back. There, that looks really nice. Okay, clip these. Okay, here's what this looks like. These are the wider ones and these are the narrow. And one was stitched this way and the other one was stitched going the other way. But you get the idea. Now they're facing each other. If you want them all to go the same way, you just keep stitching from one side to the other consistently rather than switching them. So that turned out really nice. But this is a nice way to add interest to any quilt block or sample or garment, whatever. Okay. Now we're going to use the 3-thread wave stitch to create wave corded piping. Just like we did before, go ahead and starch your fabric, just like before. We're going to need to change to the beading foot. So what I have to do here is I'm going to change out this foot for the beading foot. And the beading foot has got a channel that holds a different object. So just put this in here. We're going to try stuffing this piping with different things. I've got a very narrow, like just a piece of braiding, or thick decorative threads could also be used, or heavy decorative threads, but I'm going to use this cording. I'm going to use a 3mm wide piece of cording, and then I've got a piece of rat tail. So I'm going to try all three of these and let's see what happens here. Okay, so to thread your beading foot, you put in your beading, lay it in the channel, lower the presser foot and give it 2. Now I can hold it, now I can let go. The settings are the same as we've been using all along. The only difference is what we're doing with it. So the settings are exactly the same as did before. It's asking for a wide and a narrow, and I'm going to try both and see what happens. Okay, so I'm going to take my fabric. I'm just going to finger press it, raise the presser foot and put it just up to the needle. And again, I don't want to cut. I want the needle to just barely pierce. I want it to just barely pierce it. So I'm going to do a few stitches to make sure everything is caught. And just hold it to the side just so that it catches. Okay, actually it did a decent job of stuffing that. So compare this to the regular narrow 3-thread. I don't see a lot of difference, but I do feel a little bit of difference. This is thicker, so that's how you can create that. So that's using just the braid. Okay, let's try the same thing again with the cord. Okay, again, I'm going to lock this into place by hand walking it. Oop. So you want to get the needle just, hard to do this here. I want to get that, there we go. I want the needle to be on the left side of the cording. Okay, and now I'm going to put this underneath. Now this is using the narrowest. I'm going to switch to the widest here and see what happens. Okay, here goes. this is nice. Okay. Again, take your fingers, or just when you iron, it'll spread out. This is really nice and thick. That looks really nice. And this is compared to the regular three thread using the wide setting. Does look a lot better. And it feels a lot better. Feels more like real cording. What I didn't do was try the soutache braid with the widest setting to see how that differs. Again. So clear the stitch finger, raise the presser foot, feed in your cording, and usually it wants to go to the other side. So you just sort of pull it to the right. There we go. I just want to get one stitch on that side. Then the rest will follow. Okay, now I'm using the wider with this narrow stuff. I doubt if it will work, but let's see. I am often surprised. Okay, now this is the wider of the 3-thread waves. Here's what this looks like. Both are stuffed with the braid. Okay. I kind of like the wider, actually. I don't know, it's a matter of taste. Okay. And then last but not least, I'm going to go back to the wide, or it is on the wide. This time I'm going to feed in this rat tail. Okay. And again, I'm going to take one stitch off. There we go. That holds it in place. And then well, you get the idea. I'm just going to let that go through because that messed up there. Okay. Sometimes it helps to have a pair of tweezers. Nah. It's a little flat. I actually prefer the cording inside of it, although that does, don't look at this part, okay? That does look good too. So, actually works really well to give you a padded or corded piping. Okay, what does this piping look like when you actually insert it into a seam? I'm going to show you. So what you want to do is you want to set up your machine for a regular 4-thread overlock. So by that I mean I've got both of my needles are in. My setting length is regular 2.5 regular standard length. My width, I've got it at 7, which is the widest it will go. Okay. I have my stitch selector here on A. Okay, I'm not worried about chain or needle, chain looper or chain needle tension. Those are fine. My upper looper is up, my blade's unlocked, the knife cover is on, the subsidiary looper is off. So that I've just used by following the guide that came with your machine. Okay, so here's what I'm going to do. Here's my, I'm going to put it into this seam right sides together, and yeah, I didn't press it, it's okay. I'm going to line up all the raw edges, and this is the piece I had created earlier. Let me just pin this for now. Okay, I want to change out the foot to the cording foot, and the cording foot says P5 on it. See right here it says P5, and it has a channel underneath that the cording is going to ride in. So I'm just going to remove this, straighten those threads, put the cording foot on. There's this little indent right here, which is a guide for the cording, so I'm just going to put that, center that cording there. Okay. Line up these raw edges. Take that pin out. And now I'm just going to stitch it. And let the cording ride inside of that channel. All right. Let's take a look at it. Beautiful. And so here's the cording inside. It's inserted in here. Now, you could do the reverse wave, which we didn't do in this. So that's how you insert it. Okay, I hope you enjoyed this segment. Join us for the next segment, part 2, in order to learn more about the unusual uses of some unusual wave stitch combinations. So I'll see you then. If you like this video, then like, subscribe, share, and don't forget to hit the notification bell. Thank you for watching. Bye.